Hey guys, welcome back to Right, Wrong, or Indifferent. Thanks for listening. Today we're going to talk about an article that I found from a website. It's quantamagazine.org. And the name of the article is There Are No Laws of Physics, There's Only the Landscape. And this is by Robert, and I'm going to destroy his last name, I'm so sorry. Robert Dijkgraaf? He's going to send me a nasty email, I know, and I'm so sorry, Robert. This is a great article, thank you. And I kind of found this in the nick of time because I'm doing some reading that I'm going to be talking about later on this subject. So it's a really good warm-up to kind of get your mind thinking about these types of things already. And so let's go ahead and dig into it. And to start, I'm just going to go ahead and read, not the whole article, but just a few paragraphs that outline the whole thing, and we can expand on what we believe. So here we go, and I quote, "The current standard model of particle physics is indeed a tightly constructed mechanism with only a handful of ingredients. Yet instead of being unique, the universe seems to be one of infinite possible worlds. We have no clue why this particular combination of particles and forces underlies nature's structure. We have no idea why there are 6 flavors of quarks, 3 generations of neutrinos, and 1 Higgs particle. Furthermore, the standard model comes with 19 constants of nature, numbers like the mass and charge of electrons, that have to be measured in experiments. The values of these free parameters seem to be without any deeper meaning. On one hand, particle physics is a wonder of elegance. On the other hand, it is a just-so story," end quote. And kind of think what he means by just-so story is that it's very organized and well thought out. It's neat. It's not kind of just mishmash together. Kind of to summarize this paragraph is talking about is just the standard model and why it's being challenged. Maybe not why it's being challenged, but just some almost seems like a philosophical reasons on why the standard model kind of is too good in a weird way. Moving on to the next paragraph. Quote, "If our world is but one of many, how do we deal with the alternatives? The current point of view can be seen as the polar opposite of Einstein's dream of a unique cosmos. Modern physics embrace the vast space of possibilities and try to understand its overarching logic and interconnectedness. From gold diggers, they have turned into geographers and geologists, mapping the landscape in detail and studying the forces that have shaped it." And what he means by that is not kind of like the standard kind of gold digger that you're thinking. He's talking about people who are, instead of drilling into specific theories more and more, they're kind of mapping the distances between them and kind of figuring out how they're connected. And we'll get into the next paragraph and I'll break it down even more. So let's go ahead and rock and roll. Quote, "The game changer that led to this switch of perspective has been string theory. At this moment, it is the only viable candidate for a theory of nature able to describe all particles and forces, including gravity, while obeying the strict logical rules of quantum mechanics and relativity. The good news is that string theory has no free parameters. It has no dials that can be turned. It doesn't make sense to ask which string theory describes our universe because there is only one. The absence of any additional features leads to a radical consequence. All numbers in nature should be determined by physics itself. There are no constants of nature, only variables that are fixed by equations. Perhaps very extremely complicated ones." End quote. So he's basically saying, string theory is starting to fill this gap. But again, and this is something time and time again, it's like every single theory we have, this happens. It's not exactly what we think it is. Instead of finding like a unified theory, they're finding a unified landscape. So let's talk about the landscape a little bit. I could talk about this subject and make so many points indefinitely, but if you can't conceptualize it, I don't know if you'll be able to understand it or not. And that's okay. We want to do whatever we can because I'm even trying to conceptualize this more and more. As I talk about it even, it helps me understand it more and more and more. So this landscape they're talking about, it's like think of it like kind of like a map and a Venn diagram. And you can actually just look this up. They've posted online, and there's even an interactive way to kind of play with it. It's called Theories of Everything Mapped. And it looks like kind of a really disorganized Venn diagram where certain things overlap with certain things and certain things overlap with others. And what they believe, or they kind of think, is like where these overlappings are is the emergent of reality, so to speak. Reality is not the right word. And this is all theory, of course, but harmony is right where all these different theories intersect. There's a certain amount of harmony that exists between them. I definitely encourage you to take a look. It's a very cool way to conceptualize string theory. Points to be made here is that these are ever changing. Some of these theories are very general, some of them are very specific. It really just depends on the type of information that we know about it, or how much information we know about it. Some things we're very generally aware of, and some things we know a lot more about, and we have a lot deeper understanding. And to reflect back on the article again on what he means by being a gold digger versus the landscaper, is instead of you having people drilling down on specific theories, people are working on mapping this, like connecting, building bridges between theories to help illustrate what I'm looking at right here. So I encourage you to check it out. Physics itself is going through a perspective shift. They're changing the way they think about things and how they apply things. There's a lot of different theories coming up, like emergent theory is a big one. I do think it's a little bit of a fad theory. And what I mean by that, well, it's not a fad theory. It's not true. What I think is going to happen with emergent theory is that in what we actually think it is, it's going to actually end up being something else. Time and time again. It happens time and time again. All right, just to summarize everything up, any model that's expanded on at this point can be added to the current landscape instead of just challenging the model directly, where you can't necessarily do that with current Einstein's theory of relativity. It's pretty much cut and dry, right? And this is also actually includes dualities, dualities is the analogy that the article uses for dualities is there is two ways to bake a cake. That's what a duality means, is that there's two completely separate ways to come to a conclusion. Dualities is included in this mapping of everything, is that just because one theory is right doesn't make another theory on this landscape wrong. This is all, of course, strictly dependent on string theory. If you are a proponent of string theory and you like it and you want to learn more about it, definitely check out the Theories of Everything Mapped Out. It's very cool. Really, fundamental physics is going to have to change. The article is calling for it to be the word fundamental to be removed, essentially, and to be these things to not be as known as fundamental physics. I appreciate the complete perspective shift, but Sean Carroll said it, and I think he said it right, is that we have to understand those fundamental physics are of this reality. So it's not necessarily these fundamental physics don't apply to string theory, but these fundamental physics do apply to our reality. And I think that's important to dictate, especially the further we go out in mapping this landscape. We need to have a clear understanding on what's our reality and what is quantum theory, but obviously one doesn't work without the other. So this is kind of like an out with the old, in with the new. It's funny because some people, including myself in the past, have talked about physics kind of like having a trouble growing. Well, we're having a perspective change. There is a lot of growth in it. It's just it's a little bit more different to conceptualize now than it used to be. It's harder to talk about quantum theory when it's not an apple falling from a tree. So thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out this article on the quantummagazine.org. There are no laws of physics. There's only landscape. Check out the landscape. Let me know what you think. Discuss with your friends, too. Talk to them. See what they have to say about it. Educate them. See if they have anything to educate us about. Thanks again, guys. Have a good day. Oh yeah, rightwronginfo at Gmail. If you want to shoot me an email, ask me any questions, or donate. Thank you very much. Rightwronginfo at gmail.com. Thanks again, guys. Take care.